Okay,
So
Right on.
we have a pending motion to. We just approved the amendment of the agenda to add an exec session. Now we have a motion to approve. Or we need a motion to approve the agenda as it's been amended.
I move that we approve the agenda as amended.
Second,
trustee Good.
yes.
Trustee Howell.
Yes.
Trustee Rhodes.
Yes.
Trustee Hueslick.
Yep.
Trustee Shearer.
Yes.
Trustee Brown.
Yes.
Trustee Smith.
Yes.
Okay, thanks all. Passes 7-0. Do we have anyone here for public comment today? Seeing no one. We'll move on then to our first action item, which is the FY 2027 tuition and rate structure. Daniel, you want to take the lead, or Kent, who's?
Yeah, basically for our normal categories, in district, out district, out state and international, we're recommending an approximate 5% increase. You can see in the TFA, it's $5.25 for in-county, 7 for out district, and $10 increase for out state and international. We're also have a new category. These are what we call the high school Gen Ed 5 courses. In the past, these have been tuition free, but students did pay for fees. And now we're recommending that the high school students who take these general ed courses, these specific 5 courses, they would pay $50 a credit hour. They would not pay fees. And then on the tech fee, we're making a change on that. It had been in tiers in the past. 0 to 3 credits was so many per semester was a certain rate, 3 to 6 and like that. Now it will be a set rate of $25 per credit hour, up to 15 credit hours. Over 15 credit hours, there'll be it'll be maxed out at the 15 credit hours. And if a student does take 15 credit hours, they would receive like a credit towards next semester's fees of $100. That's the recommendation. So, yeah, we expect this, the tuition and fee increase to generate approximately $1.1 million, and the tech fee approximately 325. There's a lot of pressure on our budget from the state and other places. So we felt like this was about as high as we could go from an administrative viewpoint without really affecting our enrollment, that we would be pricing ourselves to a point where students may want to think otherwise. So while we think this is aggressive, we feel to go beyond that would probably be a problem. So I'd open it up for questions.
How are we concerned like normal? Is this going to generate enough revenue for us to cover all of our expenses?
Well,
Because I know we've got raises coming up and all the increases in deferred maintenance, and we've got a lot of
we've
expenditures.
been working on the budget quite diligently. And the last iteration, and we have this information, I can show you, I can pass this out if you like. It's not done, but right now, for the current year, we're looking at a deficit of about $1.3 million. Next year, even with this rate increase, with estimating taking a 3% increase on our valuation, because we're probably going to be limited at that, but we will be recommending take 3% on evaluation. And then with what the state's given us, plus the raise that we're going to be talking to you about possibly in exec session later, we're currently looking at about $170,000 deficit. Revenues not quite meeting expenditures for next year. So we're much closer than where we've been in the past. So we're working hard to get there.
I did get the book from Jennifer, the K-Board data. I took all the community colleges tuition they charged for 26 and average it all together. And what we charged, I kicked out Johnson County and Kansas City because Johnson County gets like $111 million in taxes and they charge $101. I wonder how they could do that possibly. So if you just take the average of 17, the average tuition last year was $136. And we were $136.50. So we're not charging ourselves out of the market. I don't think if we're the exact dead average of all community colleges minus those two. But and I just would repeat, we all agreed last week to lessen the impact on taxpayers, and if we increase taxes 3%, that's not lessening the impact, that's,
Well, we're asking the students to go up 5%.
no, I understand, but we've explicitly stated we would lessen the impact on taxpayers, and that doesn't do that at all, that's. an
I
increase.
did not interpret lessening the impacts on taxpayers to mean we're never going to take a tax increase. That is not at
Well,
all
what-
how that to me is not a realistic expectation.
Right, but you vote for it, then you immediately raise it, that's disingenuous. I'm gonna lessen your impact, which would be, in any parlance, lowering your taxes even by $1, and then no, we're gonna raise it 3%. Like, well, why even incorporate that in your bylaws or whatever it's called now?
That goes afield from what we're talking about today. I disagree with how you're interpreting what that statement means, but
Well, what's lessen mean to you?
I'd have to
Okay.
look at the context of exactly what it says.
I-
We could have
I-
very easily said we're committed to lowering taxes every single year, and we didn't say that because that's not realistic.
Okay,
Every
I'll-
other
I'll
expense
look
the
it up
college
just
is
so I can read it.
incurring is increasing.
I understand, but we could just charge our customers the appropriate amount to cover what we need to cover, or not charging any different than the average of the community colleges.
Well, would you agree that the biggest competitor that Butler Community College has is not in the data you're looking at?
I would also, yes, and I would say that if you look at our service area, Sedgwick County's service area is blocked out WSU, not Butler's not explicitly stated to serve Sedgwick County, which is the majority of our students that come here. So we're lowering our prices to serve the market that we're not explicitly demanded to serve.
I think
Huh?
trying to add those together and then average them out's unrealistic because every one of those districts is different. Each one. of those
No, I
schools
understand. I'm
is
just saying,
different- Has a different burden. To try to use that as a formula is just really not very accurate. So, but I understand what you're saying.
yeah, we said, I'll read it but I expect to make no impact on this. I just have to say what I think.
I'm sorry,
Yeah.
Shelby, could you repeat those numbers that you shared?
Yeah, if you average all the community colleges, including Johnson and Kansas City, the average tuition last year was $132.
Tuition and fees?
I bet just
Tuition
tuition.
and required fees per credit. hour.
Oh,
That's what
required
it says.
fees, okay.
And it was what again? I'm sorry.
132.
132.
And if you took out the two largest that are have the biggest cash inflow, it was 136, which was 50 cents less than ours.
Thank you.
Kent, I'm glad to see this high school gen ed 5 courses. What made you guys come up with this?
You weren't here.
Okay.
You weren't here
Dr.
last.
Daniel, I really like that. I think that's a great idea.
You know, we were losing over $1 million, a year on that, but part of it was the discussions in the president's meetings, and that was spurred by legislation, and that is that students should be paying something that goes into general tuition for courses. And so we looked at what WSU Tech's model was, and we wanted to be as close to that as we could possibly be so that they weren't, outpacing us or coming into the service area. So that's what we came up with. We had to remove a little bit out of the fee structure because of that. But we have a plan for that. The increase in fee will allow us to offer the same amount of scholarships that we were offering previously.
Good.
So we're okay.
So does this really aligns with WSU Tech?
It does.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I'll just read that sentence if you don't mind. It says drive institutional sustainability and growth. And the final bullet point says diversify revenue sources and implement multi-year financial planning to support sustainability and reduce reliance on local taxpayers.
So can I,
Drive multiple revenue sources to
Right.
reduce tax.
And
impact.
and reduce reliance on local tax.
So
That is not-
we really are working in that direction. And, you know, I will say this, I think from the president's meeting and president, this is holistically across Kansas. You know, our model is what it is. If we take 3%, the valuation's going to be higher than that. We are effectively lowering the mill levy. So yes, it's a little bit more money. You will hear later that our proposal is not to go towards the operating budget, to go 100% of the mill levy towards deferred maintenance. This college hasn't had a plan for deferred maintenance, and it scares me what is happening. We have a hole in a building right now that has had a water problem, and we're trying to get to the root of it. And those things come up, and we have to start planning for that. So one of the huge differences is we're not putting any of that into operating. We have worked really hard to reduce as a group our operating expenses and also make room for a pay raise to be able to do that. But I think for a while, we're going to need that 3% to go into deferred maintenance. And it's not what I would prefer, but it is what we have right now from the state. And the truth is, you know, when you look at the Sedgwick County students, I have some data that looks at the per capita taxpayer dollars. And by having Sedgwick County, they are actually lowering our taxpayer dollars here. If you look at KC and some of the other smaller community colleges, their taxing districts are huge compared to ours. So we actually are helping to take care of our people in the community because we do have those Sedgwick County students. Now, the state's not overly thrilled with that because it's costing the state. They're paying 2/3. They're paying that extra portion to us, but it's the model that they have. But I know that they're working to change that too. There's all kinds of discussions now, and I think we will continue to see changes. But to not be a good steward and have money going into deferred maintenance to take care of the things that we have going on, that worries me. You know, I really think it's important for us to make sure that we're taking care of some of those. It's an aging facility on this campus, and there is a lot of needs. But we really are thoughtfully going through doing that. And effectively, even a 3% is a mill levy decrease, assuming the valuation is there.
I would appreciate if we quit raising taxes and saying we have a decrease in your mill levy.
But it-
You're increasing dollars levied on people and it adjusts the mill levy, but it's a tax increase and it's disingenuous. Our assessed valuations from 2019 to 2024 went up 39.3%. That doesn't put more money in your pocket. It says your house is now worth 40% more.
Right. Yeah,
And if you
I
charge
do
the Same
understand,
amount of taxes, your mill levy goes, okay.
but at
the mill
least
levy
it's
is
not
not-
raising their mill levy. It's not
No,
taking
mill
the
levy is just an arbitrary ratio.
Yeah.
You're paying,
No,
more. Your taxes will increase. You're paying. more
point
and more.
taken. I agree. I
Yeah.
agree.
To
But
me,
the,
it's,
but the increase in assessed value, that's not, we're not doing that.
No, we set.
The market
taxes
is, the market is increasing our house costs and things like that.
Because every taxing entity raises your taxes.
Well, I mean, I don't know, they reassessed the value of my house by $30,000
Yeah.
and it wasn't,
But-
you know, it was, okay, you're in a district to where we're gonna reassess your value of your house. And as much as I would like to complain about it, the houses up and down the street are selling for what my house is valued at or above. And I did, you know, I had a friend once tell me that if you're living in a place where assessed values are going down, you're living in a dying neighborhood. And it's just, I don't like it any more than anybody else because I'm, you know, because of fixed incomes and I have to dip into my savings more. But I also like the fact that I'm living in a house that is appreciating in value rather than depreciating in value.
Right, but the appraised value and the appraisers do not levy taxes. They set the value of what they say your home should be worth and market value plus or minus 10% by statute. We levy taxes, your local governments levy taxes. The appraiser has nothing to do with it. They set the value.
Right.
We set the dollar, we don't set mill levy at all. We set the dollar amount levied in tax dollars and that becomes a ratio.
But we don't levy all the taxes.
Well,
Other
no, we
entities levy the taxes too.
10% of your total tax bill.
So,
But it's not the appraiser and it's not a mill levy. It's dollars of tax levied on.
it is
Okay.
unrealistic to think that we want to push when the state is cutting our funding And we're trying to minimize what is coming locally as best we can. It is unrealistic to think that 100% of any increase that we have is going to be borne by the students. We are going to lose students with that approach. Now, you can argue where the right balancing point is. But to
Yeah.
think that our commitment when we passed that code was that we're never gonna see a raise in taxes, and that means all that money has to come from some other source, which now means students, because we know the state isn't funding it. That's not realistic, and that certainly wasn't what I voted for when I agreed to that language.
Well, we should have had a different language or not included that in our
Now,
priorities.
the language
Lessen
talked
the
about
impact.
diversifying revenue sources. It talked
And-
about generating additional monies to be able to
Yeah.
lessen the tax impact.
Which we're
on-
working on that with the grant writer, but it doesn't say or, it says and lessen the impact. We're doing both things at the same time.
In order to, I think is
says
what the
and.
language was.
And lessen the impact.
In order to
Doesn't
lessen.
say
the-
that. It says both and lessen the impact. I'm just saying we should charge our customers the rate we need to charge to make our business work. These are majority adults. They've been supported K through 12 with our tax dollars. They've got to pay a couple dollars more credit hour. We all go out and eat now and it's exorbitant. The cost to go out and eat. We pay it if we choose to go out and eat. If we have somebody come to college to get a degree, so hopefully they make more money. That needs to be their responsibility as an adult, mostly adults. To pay a couple dollars a day. And then state, just for fun, for state appropriations in those 4 years, they went up 27%. So I thought that was interesting. And our tuition and fees overall went. That was the number generated, so never mind. But our state income revenue, state appropriations did go up quite a bit over.
And now they appear to be.
Yeah, and if
Headed
we
back-
do,
headed back down
if we literally just pass the fact that we're gonna lessen the impact and then we raise the impact with the legislature we have now, depending on what happens with our governor, is that gonna be beneficial for us in the future if we just throw them up and thumb our nose at them, or they're gonna have their way and we're just gonna have to deal with what they give us in the future? So,
Doing what the law says you can do, I don't think can be viewed as thumbing our nose at what the legislature did. If they didn't want us to raise taxes 3%, they wouldn't have said it's okay to raise taxes to
A
accept 3%
maximum,
of your
yeah.
valuation.
yeah, they're trying. to
Not
be fair
thumbing
with
our
us.
nose at the government by doing that.
No, I'm saying the thing we passed last week saying we would lessen the impact and we don't. We're being disingenuous. And we just need it, so we shouldn't have approved that, and I made the point when we made it, we should have struck it, or. To the best of our abilities, according to our budget, if we possibly can, left some nuance, but we didn't.
So
I
Shelby,
agree
are
with
you,
Forrest. I don't think you're being disingenuous with what we passed. I think you have to look at the big picture and trying to take little pieces of it and say, well, this could mean this and this could mean that is not an appropriate way to look at the issue.
The words mean thing, you guys are both lawyers, when you say and lessen. And then 2 months later, you're going to you're gonna opposite lesson, you're gonna increase. That didn't mean what you said then, and then why vote for it?
Because you have to look at the big picture. And, or, and however you want to put it, has lots of different meanings in the
Not how I
law.
put it, it's what we
It
voted
does.
on.
You get your law degree and you'll understand it better.
Oh, okay.
That would probably help. you.
Uh-huh.
'Cause I don't think
Words
you're
don't mean what they
misinterpreting
say when
anything.
you want some money, but you'll say it anyway, and then just say it doesn't matter what I say.
Yeah, you can say whatever you want, it doesn't matter. Shelby.
That's exactly what the board will do when they raise tax.
No, that isn't true. It isn't true. You're not looking at the big picture. If you want
Well, I
to
asked her,
close
what
the
it-
school, you should vote to close the school.
Yeah.
It has to operate. I understand
What is,
exactly
what
what
is lesson? Jim, if you were
what
in
Dr.
court and
Daniel's
you-
saying about, this isn't like we're trying to jack this or jack that. I can remember back when I was on the board long before you were, that we've had a problem with deferred maintenance to begin with and how we can Band-Aid and make it work. And that's what we're talking about, trying to get some additional funding for. I don't think we're trying to cheat anybody or do this or do that. We're doing what we have to do. We're
Never
trying to
said
do
you-
it
they
as
said you-
low impact as we can.
with
Well, we-
60-year-old buildings.
Yeah.
We took $1 million out of deferred maintenance last year, the previous year, put it in the operating budget. And then now we outcry that we have not enough deferred maintenance funds. Yeah, big surprise.
What deferred maintenance money did we put into the
Was
operating
that a
budget?
few years ago, or was that last year? We moved $1 million from deferred maintenance into the
To
operating.
spend on maintenance projects that were in the budget.
We
That's
took it-
not moving it into the operating budget, that's spending it.
Yeah. I don't believe it was spent on deferred maintenance, it was moved to the operating.
Shelby, are you I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
No, you're good, you're good.
Are you suggesting that we bump fees up, tuition fees a little higher?
Yeah, that's
what
my
the-
recommendation. If we need more money and we want to lessen the impact on taxpayers, whatever that 3% valuation times whatever that number is, we need to generate in fees or tuition. And our customers need to pay for our product. We advertise that we're second biggest, first best, but we don't want to charge more than average price for the best product. That's not how to run a business if you're truly the best product. People are not gonna come because they're gonna pay $2 or $3 more a credit hour, like. And most of the kids aren't paying out of pocket anyway. If you take the grant money, all the grant money that is paid for our tuition, very few people are paying for college out of pocket. Not very few, but not a majority.
So what would you think about increasing it to?
I didn't even think about it. I
Oh,
just
okay.
wanted to have my say and see if this is Dr. Daniel's best recommendation. We hired her. They'll say fine, but I can still disagree. Disagreeable.
I personally, I think the 5% is probably in line. I think Wichita State, KU and K-State will probably be in that 5 to maybe 6, maybe 7%. But I think we're looking at analytics that Kent and his team and other teams have looked at for over 30 years, and they have a pretty good handle on one, what the market will bear, and still generate extra income or generate more income from tuition.
I looked at the keyboard data, you have it right accessible. What's Cali and Dutch?
Gotta find the right page now.
What page are you kind of looking at?
I don't know. I had marking.
Which one did you ask for, Eric?
Cali and Dutch.
Cali,
college.
last year was 160. In this book, we were 124. This is for 2026. Was 121, so $3 less at Hutch and whatever that is.
And that was last year.
It says 26. It doesn't line up exactly with our numbers, but
If you look at Central County students, which is who could be at risk for making other choices,
Yeah.
other than us. To me, their number one choice is probably Dutch.
Or WSU.
Or WSU. I think they choose us for different reasons than that, so.
but the revenues generated by our tuition and fees in that same 2019, 2024, our revenues generated decreased 5.7%. So they're bringing in slightly less money on average.
Not to take us down a separate rabbit hole, and maybe I misunderstood. I thought there was a real suggestion at the meeting that 50 should be 49 on the. Was that not, was that
That was just kind of an off the cuff.
I mean,
Oh, yeah.
That's up to.
I don't know that it doesn't make sense.
Administration.
I'm not saying it doesn't make sense. I was surprised
We
that we
did
had a
discuss
little
that.
discussion about it and
Yes, sir.
it wasn't reflected here, so.
But we
I don't
did
know.
that a couple of years ago when we went from 100 down to 99.
That was my idea as well. Thank you, Trent.
Well, how about if I put a motion out on the table?
Do we need a motion tonight?
Yes. That's why the special meeting.
That's why we're having a special meeting. I move that the Board of Trustees recommend the approval of the FY 2027 per credit hour tuition and fee rates and the FY 2027 technology fee rates as listed on our tuition and fee rate recommendation.
I second that motion.
The motion and second is to approve what's been recommended as presented on the topic for action. Any additional discussion or comment?
You did play with the figures, I'm sure, Kent. Raising them, lowering them. So you feel this is our best?
I don't feel is very strong. Senior menu,
Mhm.
all of that is quite.
I would maybe suggest as a board too,
I'd like to say.
going forward, we need to be, we've got to tighten the belt at some point. We bought the culinary building when we had an amazing lease we didn't have to buy. We gave Andover money just because they asked. We're just spending money. And then now we're short of funds because we've spent too much, didn't generate enough. So maybe moving forward. Maybe not spend down our savings as much as we have, that would be helpful.
I will bite my tongue to respond because those two examples I think are just
I
absolutely
could go,
terrible. What, that's, I don't want to take us
The
down. a rabbit-
Andover, that was the road.
but we exceeded our contract that we
But-
agreed. We gave them money and then City of Andover gave Augusta.
We did
the
what
same
we
amount.
promised we would do. You're right.
Right.
It was
We did
different than what
above
the
our- we did
contract
above what
said.
we
We did what
promised.
we promised all along that we would do.
So I don't know how
And-
healthy it's gonna be to hash up things we had.
And,
5, 10,
and that's not a
15
part
years
of
ago.
the, that's.
But
not
What'd you
part-
say, Eric?
I said, I don't know how healthy it's gonna be to hash up things from 5 or 10 years ago, but I think where we ought to recognize is Kent's worked up these numbers. We're within, last year we were over $1 million short. Now we're within 170 short. And as a board, we should be challenged to, let's keep working on, try to eliminate that 170 that we're short in some fashion going forward instead of looking backwards at where we've been.
My suggestion is to charge our customer the proper amount, so we generate the revenue we need and not tax the citizens of Butler County. To offset the fact that we're unwilling to charge the price we need for a product, we're afraid people won't come if we charge what it needs to be. I'll have the same discussion when we vote for taxes. It'll be.
I hope when we do, you're as quick to point to the K-Board data that shows, you pointed out how where Butler sits with respect to the other community colleges in terms of rates. I hope you're as quick to point to where Butler's mill levy and per capita tax impact hits.
I will
compared
do
to
it
the
on
other
dollars
counties.
tax and not arbitrary mill levy.
No, do
rate,
it per
but like-
capita.
Yeah,
Dollars
that's
tax
fine.
doesn't matter. You're comparing a 10,000
You
population
can
county
do
to like
dollars tax
2,000
per individual, yeah. that's
per
fine.
capita.
Yeah,
I think you'll
but not
find that
mill-
we are,
Not mill levy,
I think Butler is next to the lowest
Mhm.
on mill levy, yeah.
on per capita taxes assessed, tax dollars assessed. It's not mill levy. You want to dispute mill levy, but it's real dollars impacted per taxpayer.
Philosophically, I'm opposed to taking someone else's income from them. That's their life. You are taking from them at gunpoint. I think that's immoral. I will argue that every day, even if it's $1. You don't have a right to their dollar.
I don't dispute the argument. My point is if you're going to challenge that Butler ought to charge more for where we are with respect to the other community colleges, you should be also willing to recognize that our tax levy per capita is, if not the lowest, amongst the lowest of all the community colleges.
Right. I just said my statement. We should charge our customers. They can willingly pay more for a product that they choose to pay. And taking money from people who do not want to pay it, we're forcibly taking their life and income. That is immoral, no matter what that amount is. That's my philosophy. That's what I believe. So we take less per person than another county does. It's still immoral. That's my philosophy.
If I could just add a little context to those figures here, those are for the in-district rates, so we are a little bit lower than average for in-district. If you look at out of district or out of state, those rates are higher than average. So we've shifted the burden more towards students who are not in Butler County in those comparisons.
So there's a much smaller amount of out of state. than
Out of district as well. So where most of Sedgwick County, the rates there would be higher than the average.
There's majority.
Yeah,
Or
78, 80% of Sedgwick County. It used to be out. Yeah, I get your point from this.
Any other comment? If not,
Trustee Good,
Yes.
trustee Howell,
Yes.
trustee Rhodes,
yes.
trustee Hueslick,
Yeah.
trustee Shearer,
Yes.
trustee Brown,
Yes.
trustee Smith.
No,
Okay, that passes 6-1. Thanks all for the discussion. Moving on to the ADA Plaza renovation. I don't see, okay, we have,
there's a question. Feel like it's very self-explanatory, but Patrick
Yeah.
should have a question. Patrick. Whether. But,
Yep.
questions we have. I guess that was easy enough.
Yeah. So we had this come up at the board meeting. The amount came in above budget. They Ireland and Patrick and his group worked magic and that. If there's no questions, we'll entertain a motion to approve the proposal as presented for Conco.
Can you kind of explain to me where this is going to be?
It's the plaza in front of the
When you walk in.
library.
Building
Yeah.
between the, runs from the Circle Drive all the way up to the 600 building, between the 500 and the 900.
And it's what essentially removing all the steps, putting in ramps.
Thank you.
Well, I move that the board approve the proposal from Conco Construction, the total cost of $664,362 for phase one plaza project.
No, second.
Got a motion and a second. Any discussion?
Trustee Good,
Yes.
trustee Howell,
Yes.
trustee Rhodes,
Yes.
trustee Hueslick.
Yeah.
Trustee Shear,
Yes.
trustee Brown,
Yes.
trustee Smith.
No. That passes 6-1. Thanks, everybody. Patrick, thank you all for your work. Last item is the scoreboard, I think. Oh, last page, on the back of the last page. Does this
So-
one also get, oh, go ahead.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
So this one, we had a lot of bids coming in. There was a little bit of confusion, so we changed and went to an RFP on it. The original cost was gonna be 1.1 million, and after we worked it, Chip did a lot of work, the whole team did. And we have gotten it down to 580,000, which is huge, with a great warranty, 10 years, parts and labor, which is phenomenal. This is being split between USD 490 and Butler. We'll split the cost evenly. We do not want to have to finance it. They're going to ask for another 60,000 that way. So we've looked at funds that we have available. We're going to use her funds for the first payment. First payment would be out of this fiscal year. We have the 150 in there that will support that. We also have quite a few funds that will go into contingency. We'll take the second half payment out of that, avoid the 60,000 in terms of the interest and be done with it. And we're working on ways that we can provide some future funds to be able to support what happens at the stadium, because there really wasn't a great plan in place to handle the deferred maintenance. I will say, because city is the third piece in there, they are funding the audio visual as well as the electrical on their portion of it. So it really is being split 3 different ways.
So Dr. Daniel, this is, how long did our other one last?
I think, yeah,
13 or
13
14.
years, and we've got 10 years labor and parts. We would expect 10 years if we get a little more life, so be it.
Okay, so we have people who sponsor, and their names are put on the scoreboard. Where does that money go to?
It goes to the city, and that helps pay some of the annual payments that we have to pay. The turf, as you recall, was replaced. We have payments on that that are taking place, and the other regular bills that go into it. So there is a lot of there's a lot of things that are paid out of that particular account, but yes, those sponsorships go to pay that. We feel like the digital board is going to give us a little bit more now because it's a little more up to date. You have the wraparound digital, so we can go for smaller sponsorships as well as the larger ones. And we're hoping that between the city, USD 490 and us, we will actually be able to raise a little bit more money to go into that maintenance fund.
So how many sponsorships can that sign hold?
Well, the sun, right,
Oh, it won't, okay.
yes.
And the biggest one is top. You have 62 by 4 feet. And we can find out who will pay the big money and put their name on the top.
And how much is that? 60 feet by 4.
The whole thing. There you go. That's 1 by
4 by 5 feet.
So how much is the biggest one?
Well, we don't know. I haven't heard yet what this price will be for the largest one, but it's open. Right now, there's a big truss that goes across the top, 4 foot tall,
62 feet wide, and there's no name on it. So we have a place that we can put the most prominent person.
And
That'd
that'll
be
be, will that
only
be
one-
digital as well?
No, it'll be fixed.
That'll be the only part that's.
That's the only one's fixed. Everything else will be on time. So like all the sponsors that are on there now will be time on the board.
So
And
you
if
can
they're,
get more sponsors.
right, and we can have little ones, or somebody who wants to sponsor this one event. Or be the sponsor of the game, they can have their own little ad. And never be on the board. And then other ones that don't pay, they won't be on the board no more.
We don't have those, do we,
You've got two
that don't pay?
that are on the board now. So we can fix that. And then all that money is supposed to help further the upgrades or pay out the portions back.
The 10-year life, and chime in here if I get this wrong, but the 10-year lifespan, what we ran into with the current scoreboard is that the company doesn't,
They-
we're beyond the life of the product.
They don't even make the product. We're 5 years past being any products made. Last fall, I sent in 9 panels and got 1 back. And right now we're on 1 part away from, and the sound system's blown out. And with the new sound system that's part of this, that the city's paying for, we'll fix that. They will not be able to overdrive the speaker system. We're trying to fix things that cause problems. And the old board only had a 5-year warranty.
So what do we do with the old board?
It's going away somewhere.
I mean, are we responsible for it?
No, it's part of the bid. They have to remove it and dispose of it.
On a big screen TV.
Can you?
We get to do ours at home. Kyle has the remote.
You could probably go there. The only problem is you have to make it a lot smaller, and if the wrong part breaks, it's toast. But we're also gonna keep the computers that are in there now as backups for the gym, because they're exactly the same as what we have in the gym. So we'll have some pieces that we can hang on to. I won't let nothing disappear that I can use somewhere else.
Was there talk about opening this up more for other organizations?
Yes, we've had some committee meetings and we're looking at what are some other things we can do in the community. One for just community awareness and community use, but also for revenue generating ideas. So all of that is on the table. We have quite a few ideas. We just are trying to get past this and be able to get that taken care of and deal with the others. But yes, there's been a lot of discussion in that because to be fair, none of the 3 of us, myself, Jennifer Davis, or, David were involved in the original, so we're picking up the pieces, trying to go, we need more planning, we need more sustainability, more ability to be able to know, what the costs are, what's going to be involved and what's next.
Just to let Jim, Aaron and Eric know, a couple years ago, went and looked at before this data, just for information, so you know, I'm not. But our football program at that time was losing $1.1 million. Just so you know, that's the cost of. Then I don't know what it is now. Just information for you to have.
But there will be more opportunities to use that stadium because Kansas State High School Association accepted and recommended women's flag football. And that could be a destination for flag football. And I do know that the Wichita schools and the Mays schools and the Goddard schools and all of those do have women's flag football already in place. So it gives, and I remember one summer, Drummond Bugle Corps rented it out for a while and people were driving in that parking lot all the time, just listening to the band and just, so.
And we've got more sports there than just football.
Right.
Soccer,
Soccer.
track and field. are
Track.
there.
Mhm.
Any other discussion? If not, I guess we have a Did you move to, do we have a motion?
We
on this one? No, not, okay, we don't. have a
Okay,
motion.
I will move that the Board of Trustees recommend the approval of a proposal from Moscow Sports Lighting LLC for the total project cost of $580,000 with Butler Community College's share estimated at $290,000.
Have the motion to approve as presented. Do we have a second?
I'll say.
Any other discussion?
Trustee Good,
Yes.
trustee Howell.
Yes.
Trustee Rhodes.
Yes.
Trustee Hueslick,
Yes.
trustee Shear,
Yes.
trustee Brown,
Yes.
trustee Smith.
No. That passes 6-1 also. Um, Thanks for the and the follow-up. That was about a $350,000 savings over what we thought the bill was a couple weeks ago. So good work. I think all we have left is the exec session. The language is on the handout if someone would like to take us there. We have nothing else after that.
Mr. Chairman, I move the board recess into executive session for discussion relating to negotiations to include the board, Dr. Tamara Daniel, Dr. Mark Malone, Shelley Stoltz, and Kent Williams for about 60 minutes.
And I'll second.
Okay, trustee Good.
Yes.
Trustee Howell.
Yes.
Trustee Rhodes,
Yes.
trustee Hueslick,
Yeah.
trustee Shear.
Yes.
Trustee Brown,
Yes.
trustee Smith.
Yes. Was Bill supposed to be a part of this or no? Sorry, maybe I misunderstood.
We were going back and forth. So
You always have to jack it.
I'll do whatever.
Okay, why don't we, let's do another motion to amend to add.
To amend this
add
motion
Bill.
to include Bill Rinkenbaugh.
Second.
Sorry, I can't write that fast.
Yep.
Trustee Good,
Yes.
trustee Howell.
Yes.
Trustee Rhodes.
Yes.
Trustee Hueslick,
Yes.
trustee Shear.
Yes.
Trustee Brown,
Yes.
trustee Smith.
Okay, thanks, everybody.
He only needs four
Um,
yeses.
Yeah, well, I saw